Hi, Tammy, and hello, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome.
Sylvia.
Yay, welcome to another Super Spotlight series. And because, I personally have been always about health and wellness, today's guest, our superhero guest, is all about wellness. In fact, proactive wellness, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
he's a dear friend to both of us. We've built a beautiful relationship with him, and he's always there by our side, helping us and championing us into our best health. So I love our next guest.
Yeah, so his name is James Griffin. He is in Toronto, Canada, and he is going to share about how he works with adult clients, who he coaches, as well as children in the schools, as well as amazing things like his books, couple of books that he's written, one that just came out by April 8th, and also his Qigong. There's just so much that I loved hearing. So let's bring James in right away.
Yay!
All right.
We go. Awesome.
There we
Awesome.
There
Grateful
go.
you
to,
Hey,
grateful to
are.
be
James,
here.
how are
Hey,
ya?
Tammy, hey, Sylvia. Awesome. Totally awesome. Grateful to be here.
Awesome.
Oh,
James, I just want to say one of the things that I love about bringing you on as a guest is what you are called as a coach is called a proactive wellness coach,
Yes.
right? So can you describe what that means in just that title?
Absolutely. So proactive wellness is us creating our future in advance and understanding that in order for us to fulfill our divine life purpose and the reason why we're on this earth plane, we have to invest in not just the physical body, but our heart energy and our brain, because they do work in synergy. So if we're not proactive in creating and optimizing those bodies, then there's a higher probability that they will probably malfunction as time goes on and energy is drained and we feel unwell and we're not able to have the energy to fulfill our divine life purpose. So there are 7 portals in my proactive wellness education system, and all of them I provide extensive education on how to maximize and optimize them. So we actually slow down aging, increase energy, strengthen immunity. And when we apply these, our body actually accelerates its ability to repair and regenerate itself. So we're ahead of the curve. So no matter what challenges come our way in life, and no matter what we have to do, let it be with our business or let it be our purpose, we have the energy to recover faster and to stay ahead of the curve. So it really is ultimately staying ahead of the curve, because in society, many people fall behind the curve and they feel victims to life. So this helps individuals to feel like the creators of their lives, and that when it comes to pursuing their purpose and their dreams and their passions, that nothing is ever in the way. It's only on the way because I have the energy to fulfill that.
I love that. Wow. Hey, Sylvia.
yeah. I always love listening to James speak. James, isn't that how to think ahead of the curve? The name of is it your book or your course?
No, no, no. So it's my company name is Ahead of the Curve
Company. That's
Wellness.
right. Company.
I
That's right.
chose
That's right.
that.
That's right.
I chose that because my education is ahead of the curve compared to a lot of other quote wellness or health education off as well.
Right.
So putting those 7 portals together, it created a lot of clarity, and it helps people to put these fragmented puzzle pieces together to form one puzzle so they have that clear vision on how to apply it and then move forward in their lives as powerful
And
creators.
who doesn't want to be ahead of the curve, right? So this is leading us right into our first question with you, James, is about what is the importance? Why is it so important to empower children with tips and tools and strategies at an early age? Because we know that a lot of us don't start looking for answers until you're already in the chaos, or you're in the tragedy, or you're in the upset, right? With mental, emotional, physical. It's usually when we are hitting a really hard place that we look for answers. But this is all about prevention versus corrective measures. And this is
Yes.
why you're the perfect person to answer this question. Why is it so important to start so young with children?
Excellent question. So life is like a roller coaster. There's many twists or turns, ups and downs. And when children do not get this education at a young age, those twists and turns are far more volatile. They're far more challenging. And to recover from challenges without this education that you're talking about, it takes longer. So when children learn empowerment and conscious creation at a young age, those twists and turns are far less, and they're able to accelerate to get to fulfilling their vision, fulfilling their passion, and fulfilling their purpose. So there's going to be less struggle, there's going to be less discomfort, and there's going to be a smoother path to get them to where they want to go. So again, you're going to be tripping far less. And if you do trip, you'll get up and you'll be able to dust yourself off very quickly and continue to move forward, as opposed to children who do not have this education. If they trip, oh, they stay on the ground and they feel like a victim, and sometimes they can get lost and confused. So this education helps them to, as Tammy would say, keep their eye on that North Star and always remind them of pulling them in that direction. So yeah, Sylvia.
You just made me think of a graph where, as those roller coaster happens, those twists and turns, the rate of personal growth and development, right? If they don't have the education, every time they experience something, it goes down and
Yes.
down and down. But it's the opposite. If they have the education that way, it's actually every challenge, it moves them up. And that's where the transformation happens, right? The growth happens.
Exactly. Yes. And this ties into what I was going to say as well, is that when you have this education, this foundation that we're talking about, you recognize that struggle is life's way of strengthening us as well. So instead of staying down, you recognize, yeah, we went through a bit of a challenge, got over it pretty quickly. What did I learn from it? And that learning that I got, that education from that struggle, is actually a strength. And so when children are able to move forward with that, and with this education that you are giving them to raising empowered kids, they'll always have that awareness that, you know what, the struggle, I'm not going to judge it as bad, but it's just an opportunity to be creative, to resolve the situation, and to cultivate some strength along the way as well.
You know what I just thought of? So as you guys were talking, is this comparison to financial abundance. So if you started taking your paycheck and taking 10% or 5% and putting it in, if you with your first job, how much money would that money be able to make for you and grow for you over the course of your life, versus trying to make that money, let's say at 50 or 40 years old, right? So the earlier you start, the more it grows. And then if a tragedy or something difficult did happen, you would have that financial support to be able to help you out of there, like Sylvia's saying,
Yes.
right? With those connections. So everything, early intervention is easier on every level, whether it's your health, because we're born healthy, right? And then our health declines. But if we were always supporting our health and we're born geniuses and we kept growing our infinite potential, we could start expanding this. But it's all about early intervention. And this is the big piece that we really want to hit home, right? We need to start young, not wait till the tragedy or challenges show up.
Exactly, yes. And as you mentioned, Tammy, if you have a strong financial foundation, when those twists and turns do come up in life, and they do to varying degrees, of course, having a strong financial foundation allows us to go through those challenges a little more smoother as well, because we
Right.
have access to more resources. And it's
Right.
not just resources through those twists and turns, it's resources to fulfill our divine life purpose of making this world a better place.
And what we're talking about here, James, is tips and tools and strategies, right?
Yes.
To be able to use those and have those in place when those challenges show up. So
Yes.
that's why it gives you confidence and you have clarity. It's like I say to the kids, you know, we had a lockdown, right? And we've been teaching self-regulation. And these kids know how to be still and they know how to be quiet. In the case of an emergency, if you think you're going to be able to do a fire drill or a lockdown and get these kids to be still and quiet on those 1 days, or if there was, unfortunately, you know, a scary tragedy like that where we had to be in that case, we haven't taught those kids how to do that. Our kids, even our artistic children, our behavioral children, they are able to hold themselves still. Even the ones that find it really difficult and need, you know, those fidget toys, they know how to be still and silent in that moment. So it's not just for learning and those experiences, it's also for, in the case of an emergency, these kids
Yes.
need to do this. So these are all things that we don't think about until that time comes. And then
Exactly.
we're not ahead of the curve, are we? We're behind the
Exactly.
ball.
Yes. Yep.
That's not where
Exactly.
we want to be.
Exactly. Yes. And one exercise that I always love sharing, I've taught this to children, adults, and even seniors, is the power of conscious deep breathing. Because when you're in those emergency situations, when they come up, often if they don't have this education prior, they can go into panic reactive victim mode. However, when you teach the regulation, there's the calm, proactive peaceful modes, yeah. So there's a situation's coming up. I'm just going to focus on my breathing, because our breathing, when it's done in a certain way, can actually calm our nervous system within seconds. And we can think more clearly. Access to creativity and intuition remains higher the more calm we feel as well. So that's why teaching regulation at a very young age, that really is a superpower.
I love it.
Yes.
Sylvia, we
Yeah.
have a transformational story, right? We want James
Well,
to
yes.
introduce us to.
I was gonna ask James if is there a story you can share or tell us about an experience, either yourself or someone you know, that can kind of guide us with what you were just talking about.
Well, the story I wanted to talk about today, that inspired me for years, was the legend of King Arthur and Merlin. I'm not sure you two are both generally familiar with it. So Merlin was a sort of a divine masculine figure, and King Arthur did not have a kingdom handed to him. He had to build it from the bottom up, and he had to go through a lot of twists and turns and challenges. And what Merlin taught Arthur at a young age is how to create the vision of what you want to create. And so for Arthur, it was Camelot, which was a kingdom of peace and prosperity for all its citizens. And what Merlin taught Arthur was regulation, obviously, was one of those tools, and remaining connected to your higher power as well. And also remembering that, yeah, there's going to be twists and turns along the way. As I previously mentioned, life is like a roller coaster. And if it was straight, it would be boring and there's nothing to learn as well. So throughout those twists and turns, you always have to remember to keep your eyes on the prize and keep your eyes on the vision. And when children are building something from the bottom up, it's not something that's generally handed to them. And the principles within what Merlin taught Arthur were very inspiring for me. And this tied into the book that Deepak Chopra wrote. It's called The Way of the Wizard. And it focused on the story of Merlin and King Arthur and all the lessons Merlin taught Arthur at a young age up until the age of 12. So all the stuff he needs to know as a child, very empowering and very high level of consciousness. And that story that book was also an audiobook as well, and I got a hold of the audiobook first, and it really helped me to understand that keep your eye on your vision, on your passion, and your purpose, and remember that you are never alone. There are always ever like some people have angels and spirit guides, but the higher power that's always working with us and co-creating along the way with us as well. And those really worked really great for me. And I discovered this. I didn't discover this as a child. This was about, I would say, 14 years ago. And so I always encourage everybody to just to look into that story. And now, whether it's true or not, that's why I call it a legend, because we weren't alive back then. So whether it was true or not, we're not sure. But the lessons that came out of that legend and that story impacted me, and I'll always remember them and take them with me for the rest of my life. So if children can learn some of those as well, it would empower them and help them to accelerate their journey of fulfilling their divine life purpose as well.
I love that. Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. You know,
Wow.
when you were saying these, it reminds us of the three things that we know brings true and ultimate happiness. The first thing is faith, right? Believing in something that you can't see, in a higher power, your higher self, or, you know, in things like your intentions or dreams that you haven't yet actualized. So that it's like keeping you in that intention, and
Yes.
it gives you a direction, your North Star. The second thing is friends. When you talked about Merlin and King Arthur, right? That friendship and those early friendships on, and the influences that you get. And the third one is about your career, his career, about what it is he wanted to establish. So again,
Future.
those are the three things that ultimately what we all desire for ourselves and for the children that we're empowering.
Exactly. And another theme too is that I've came to understand that Arthur, as the role of the king, he did not rule his kingdom, he served his kingdom. And there's two different energies there as well. And he wanted peace and prosperity for all, and he had to lead by example with that as well, which is why he was very, according to the legend, he was a very well respected by the citizens, not feared, but respected. And that was a major theme that really touched my heart.
What I love about the round table is they
Yes.
were all about collaboration, not competition. There was no hierarchy, and that was
Yes.
his intention. So again, it's like what we put as our intention is then what we can create and co-create with others.
Yes, and the round table, Arthur wanted the round table because he didn't want to feel above his knights. He wanted everybody to have an equal voice. Just because I hold the title of king, it doesn't mean I'm more important than everybody else's voice as well. And that idea of the round table also really inspired me as well, that we're all equal regardless of our labels, regardless of our experiences. We all have equal powerful voices and the same powerful creative abilities as well.
This sounds like a great book for parents to actually use as lessons and reminders, and even
Yes,
to share
exactly.
some tidbits, right, with their kids.
Absolutely. And I shared The Way of the Wizard with a lot of my clients as well, and they really loved it as well. And I loved it so much that I listened to the audiobook and took a detailed notes. I was typing notes listening to the audiobook because every lesson in there is truly gold.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. I know which book to head to next. Especially there's an audio version of it too.
Yes, yes, exactly. And the audio version is just under an hour, so it's not a
Oh,
long drawn out.
wow.
Yeah, I believe 57 minutes. So the one
Oh,
I was able to get my hand on,
my
so it's
kind
like
of
really
book.
good.
So
Yes,
My
Sylvia,
kind of
exactly.
I'm
book.
sure that's what he's going to put in his proactive wellness toolkit, right?
Oh, let's see.
Yes.
Let's
Yeah,
ask
that
James.
book, yeah, that definitely books that book in particular would be in the proactive wellness toolkit as well. And also too, what would be in the toolkit is a nice water bottle as well. Oh, what do we got there, Tammy?
Is this part of the story with the
Oh,
sword?
yes, the Sword of the Stone. Yes, exactly. And I have to share with you something. Can you see my phone? This is my wallpaper. Hold on. The
Put
Sword
it.
and the
Oh, yeah, I
Stone.
see a sword. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I see the
exactly. Sword in
sword.
the stone. So that's always reminding that we create our own realities, and it could be using similar terminology, our own kingdom. And it's only when we pull our sword out of our stone that we claim our creative powers and our I guess and take back control of our personal reality so that we can spread the joy and the love to other realities. Because remember, we have one objective reality that we share, but we also have our individual subjective realities. And when we have our subjective realities, we have to claim our leadership of that. And then once we become the leader of our subjective reality, we can begin to really tap into our creative abilities and really make this world a better place. Because now more than ever, we really need to come together and really like raise the vibration of the earth realm and bring more love, harmony, peace, cooperation, truth, and unity.
And that starts first within our own heads and hearts, right? Like I
Absolutely.
said, children who love themselves, people who love themselves don't hurt themselves or others. So
Yes.
when we can do that, James, so when you think of your proactive wellness toolkit, so we've got the stone and we've got the sword. And the thing I think of a sword or a knife is the knife, depending with our intention and
Yeah.
who's holding it, can be used for good, right, or not so good, right, evil. So it's not the sword that's good or bad, it's who's holding it and what our intention is with it. Because you think of
Yes.
surgeons and you think of food preparation, there's a lot of beautiful things and necessary things that we need for with a knife, right? And then there's also things that it could lead to danger. So again, it's giving the knife to children and teaching them how to be responsible and how to use that for good in the world, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that's just a knife, but we could talk about words. We could talk about our hands. Hands are for helping, not hurting. So it's all the language that we empower children with, and the intention and the tools and the strategies that we give to them. So
Exactly.
what else would you want? Maybe one or two more things that you would put in your proactive wellness.
That what you just talked into ties into a lucky coin. So coin is a symbol for abundance, but also a coin has two sides. So as you mentioned, hands could be used to create, but they can also use to hurt as well. So always remember that everything in the earth realm has a two-sided coin, and it's how we look at it. Do anyone want to look at it proactively or reactively? Do anyone look at it constructively or destructively? Always remember there's at least two ways of looking at things, and always take the proactive, conscious, creative ways of using these tools as well. Like for example, a knife can be used to hurt someone, but it can also be used to chop our food so we can eat and sustain ourselves, to have the energy required to fulfill our divine life purpose as well. So every tool in the earth realm is a double-sided coin, and it always helps us to remember we always have to consider both sides of the coin and be aware of it. Be aware of the dark, but live in the light. I always like to say as well. So always use your tools for harmony, conscious creation, and ultimately to make this world a better place.
This is so good, eh, Sylvia?
I'm just listening so attentively. I'm just like, Yes, James, that's like so well said.
Thank you.
This is why, James, you're our brother, right? We love and adore you so much, and because we're a champion of the work that you're doing and the most amazing heart that you have, and we know breath work, right, is something you would have in your proactive wellness toolkit, because the breathing ball, right, or even the
Yes.
five-finger breath work meditation. So
Yes.
those are all things that we know would be in your toolkit, and we would have so many things.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yep.
Well, I love the word proactive. Like I when I hear the word proactive, it gets me excited because I can
Yes.
be thinking ahead. And I think our kids having that proactive in their mind all the time is going to take them really far in terms of loving themselves, being calm, and just being prepared and passionate about what they want in their future, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
Well, speaking of future, we are actually, maybe James, we might see you in Niagara Falls, possibly coming up in our Empowered Adventure. Would that be a
Yes.
possibility? Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Tammy and I have already talked about that, and I'd be more than happy to attend. Absolutely.
Awesome. So families will get to meet James. Well, you're in for a treat because James is so much. We just touched about one thing, but there's a whole lot that James
Yes.
teaches us, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Well,
I've
and
been told. Yes. Go
James
ahead,
is
Tammy.
going to lead us, right, James, in one of his proactive exercises to
Yes.
help us in empowering kids and becoming proactive with our health. So we're super excited that James is one of our guest speakers, and you guys can
Yes.
take pictures, and we can take pictures with James on the red carpet. We're so excited to have you, James.
Looking very forward to it as well.
all right. Well, we're gonna let everyone get to know this much, and then when everyone gets to meet you and talk to you, we will expand further and go deeper into all of that you put in your toolkit.
And
Thank
Absolutely.
you
maybe
so
even
much,
have your
James.
books for us to sign, right? Like you could sign
Yes.
some books and maybe have some gift-aways. Those would be awesome.
All part of the plan.
Ooh. All
Yay.
right.
Yes.
Excited. Thank you so much, James, for sharing your words of wisdom. And
Grateful. Yes.
we always love seeing you.
I'm always grateful to be on a call with some of my favorite sisters.
Oh.
Yes.
All right. Well, have an amazing week and we'll see you soon.